What is happening every Sunday afternoon? It is Mother's Day. Eric and I breaking down the NBA slate. So we've got one game lock in this afternoon. We've got a later game today as well. And yeah, a lot of the playoffs have been pretty damn good. So I'm looking forward to today's games. Injuries for today, non-existent, which has not been the case for other slates with the Cleveland Cavaliers, but looks like they're healthy and good to go. We've got OKC and Denver. That game's going to be locking right after the show ends at 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. And then we got Cleveland, Indiana at 8 p.m. Eastern time. And I'll tell you what, Eric, I am very happy. And as you guys are here, like the video, subscribe to the channel. I'm very happy that we don't have a bunch of guys who are questionable or any kind of injury concerns for Cleveland, because it would be a pain in the ass to play this 2-game slate with a 4.5-hour gap between games and players injured in the later games.
Yeah, it would suck. It would really suck. But we're going to kind of have a forward-facing slate from here on out. I mean, whenever we get the update, we'll get the update. And then I think it's just all systems go. I mean, I'm excited to watch everything here. I mean, this is what I keep thinking about. If OKC loses today and you know, down 3-1, historically not great, although OKC still by all metrics been the best team in the NBA this season. Does this change the Giannis landscape for them? Does this become like a driver of them revamping anything, or do they come back to the table same team next year?
My gut feeling has been that Giannis will end up in OKC. Josh and I have talked about this a little bit on playback. The caveat being is that if they win the title this year, then like why really change up a young core? But yeah, I do think that if Denver wins this series, that there's a pretty decently high likelihood that Giannis ends up in OKC. They've got all the ammo to do it. They could outbid any other team that would potentially put an offer on the table, depending how many of the chips OKC wants to put on the table. They have to do something with their first round picks because they got 15 of them over the next few years. They have more first round picks than they even are going to be able to house roster spots. That's why they get somebody like Topic, who they drafted in the offseason. They get somebody who's either hurt or somebody who's overseas, so they don't have to use a roster spot. I'm like, they have to use those first round picks. It's one of those, if you don't lose it, you lose. If you don't use it, you lose it situation, because what do you do if you just don't have enough roster spots for all these picks? Like, are they going to start being like, hey, we're going to package 3 of our first round picks to move up, 8 spots in the draft a couple of years from now? Like, it's just not the best use of those resources. So we'll see what ends up happening. I do tend to think, though, like I said, my gut feeling, if they do get knocked out by Denver, I think Giannis ends up on OKC.
I'm with you. I think that that's definitely kind of what I've been thinking about, watching some of it play out. Now, yesterday I was at a wedding, so I had absolutely no chance to even watch my Minnesota Timberwolves. But I just kept thinking, like, man, if Minnesota was ever going to back themselves into an NBA Finals, getting OKC out of there would be the absolute dream. And, we've had some competitive series against Denver. We got the better side of it this last year. 2 years ago, it was them. But like, I got to think that OKC, I mean, if they go down 3-1 going back, they do have 2 of those 3 games at home. So it's definitely not off the table that they run the table with those 3. But I'm very interested to watch that game. And obviously Cleveland Indy, it's a nice piece. It's fun to watch, but I still feel like they're markedly below what the Celtics and OKC are. So it's kind of like less intriguing to me overall.
Yeah, so we will we'll see what ends up happening. Like I said as well, it is Mother's Day, and I don't know about you, Eric, but what did your mom want for Mother's Day this year? I know my mom only wanted one thing.
Yeah, my mom called me. She was just like, Eric, this portfolio EV you talk of, she's just like, I just need it for 75% off. I absolutely have to have it for 75% off. Oh, look at that.
That's exact same thing. All my mom wanted. My mom was like, I need to be a plus EV better now. That was all my mom. She was like, my mom was like, how do I implement a market-based top-down strategy to start profiting on sports bet? I was like, Mom, I've got you covered. Sign up.
Like I've been devigging off of Penny for years, and it's just too long. It's too time consuming. We have to find a better way.
I told her, just here's what we're going to do, Mom. I'm setting up a promo code. Flowers75, 75% off portfolio EV, and you could start winning your bets today. And your moms can for Mother's Day as well. I'm sure that's all your moms want as well, is a great top-down betting approach for the upcoming year. And I've been killing it using the portfolio EV tools over the last week. So here's my betting results. I just started using Juice Reel, which I've really enjoyed using, and Now it's really fun too, because it's kind of like starting from scratch to an extent with my bet history, just because when you start tracking the bets, like I still have some of my recent bets, but it only houses, so far back in terms of historical bets you had. Everything is going to be stored in there going forward. But now I get to build up my tracking portfolio on Juice Reel. So my first full week here on Juice Reel using Portfolio EV tools did profit $2,600, which, hey, for a week of sports betting, it's a good way to supplement the income. And you guys can get 75% off, or your mom, whoever it is you want to buy the Portfolio EV for, 75% off with the promo code FLOWERS75. And that deal is only going to be good until the end of today. So take advantage of it before it is the end of Mother's Day. Eric, any kind of general overarching thoughts you have on this 2-game slate before we get into some of the individual players? Seems like there's going to be no starting lineups or injury concern changes or anything.
Evan Mobley played it quite a bit, didn't he, Greg?
He did. It's kind of funny because obviously if you played Mobley, you're sitting pretty good the other day, but also he was like, what, the 5th best forward?
Yeah, it was a crazy evening to things. I mean, you had Mitchell, Mobley, and you needed Strus. So like those were the 3 that you really needed to have.
Well, no, Mobley, you didn't. Mobley wasn't in any of the top lineups because
No. I'm saying you had to have Strus. I'm just simply listing off from the first game. So I'm saying Mitchell was nuclear. And then you ended up having a really nice outing from Mobley. And then Max Strus was the must-have guy because of the positionality. And, that was kind of the undercut that I took on him. If I had more of him, I mean, I still had a pretty profitable slate, but it was not nearly as profitable as it should have been, considering how much Mobley I had, how much Donovan Mitchell and some of the other Cavs that I had. But Strus, the one guy on the Cavs that I was underweight to, was not ideal, Greg.
Yeah, Strus killed it. Obviously Mobley was really good, but like every power forward was really good on that slate.
Yep.
And it's kind of interesting because we have now seen Mobley's price drop from $8,000 to $7,500. We got him projected for 40 fantasy points today. His ownership comes up. Right now I'm a little bit underweight to the field on Mobley. And it's just, there's so many good power forwards. And I do question a little bit the ceiling of Evan Mobley, just because we saw a game the other day where he went for, it was like 53 fantasy points, and none of the top lineups ended up having him on that slate because still like Chet was better, Aaron Gordon was better, Jalen Williams was better, like from a points per dollar sense at the power forward position. Then also at small forward, you like Mathurin was better, Michael Porter Jr. was better on that day. Max Strus was somebody who was really good. So it's still kind of like the same issue I have with Mobley today that I did the other day. He projects fine, but you still need him to be better than the other power forwards and the other forwards in general to some extent. And he's more popular now than he was the other day. Like, obviously, he was a really good call by you from a contrarian option. And then also, if that late game didn't go into overtime, then I think the winning lineups probably would have ended up having Evan Mobley. I don't know exactly where things ended up standing at the end of regulation of that game. But if we do look at some of the pay-up options on the slate, where we've got Jokic, we've got SGA, but, Evan Mobley's amongst the pay-up options. I kind of find myself in a similar situation, Eric, to where I don't know who you're prioritizing as far as pay-ups go, but I've just found it really hard for the second consecutive slate to prioritize Evan Mobley.
Yeah, I mean, I went back through and looked at the post-contest sim for a long time, mainly because these are the same 2 teams that we're getting on the same slate. So I think that that's a good use of your time and probably one of the most underutilized things that we have over here at Stokastic. I still think it's pretty untapped, and I still think people aren't utilizing it enough. But I was very curious to see where Evan Mobley came in because he was 7.6% owned in the main. It was an egregious number, and yet he didn't have like a crazy good sim player ROI. And that's the sim. I'm not talking about actual player ROI where he had a really good number. Obviously, the overtime pushed Jared Allen. I mean, Jared Allen was like another must-have, gotta-have-it piece from that early game as well. He had the highest actual player ROI, even though I didn't think he was a markedly good play on that slate once you got Mobley in there. It just ended up being a Cleveland onslaught. And so I went through looking through the sim player ROIs, and we had negative ROI attached to Evan Mobley at negative 4.8%. And that was like in my mind, knowing that I believed he was going to be lower than the 15% we had projected. Then, I mean, there were other people in the industry had like 16, 17. I'm like, it wasn't shocking to me that he ended up under 10%. But sometimes when you're trying to just pinpoint a data point, like in the back of your head, we've played DFS long enough. It's like, oh, this is a contrarian piece. And you kind of do the boom bust tool in the back of your head. I think you got to be very careful when you get to the next slate. And then there's a price adjustment against him, which is so strange. And now the ownership is going to ramp up. So everything I talked about Evan Mobley on Friday, I hope people understand this. It's not that I liked Evan Mobley, the player, or his circumstance or anything like that. I liked the ownership. I liked the potential upside at low ownership. And sure, everybody else ended up nuking at the forward position. But I think for today, you and I are thinking about this identical. I expected to see him, 25, 30. He's like 34, like 32%. Like he's getting way up there because of this price adjustment. And now is the time when you probably come in and undercut because, again, I like Evan Mobley as a real life basketball player. I liked him for the slate last Friday. I do not like him relative to his ownership for the slate today. So, and that was just me going through the post-contest sim and utilizing that data point as kind of like hey, I think this is a markedly bad play this time around.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because so something similar with Max Strus, where with both Mobley and Strus last game were both priced for players to be out. They're both priced for Garland and Hunter to be out for that. Well, most notably, they're priced for Darius Garland to be out. So what ended up happening was, at least from like a projection standpoint, we had Max Strus and Evan Mobley both being priced for a situation that just wasn't the case. It was, they were priced as if there was extra usage with these guys being out. Well, they all ended up playing, but they both played really well anyway. Max Strus was the one who, for me, like the biggest miss in terms of my actual lineups. I didn't play very much of Max Strus, which I don't necessarily regret that I didn't play him. It was really hard to project him to be better than he normally is when you're projecting him to be better than he normally is for when guys are out. And then those guys were playing, but then he just made all of his shots. He ended up playing really well in that game. So Max Strus, somebody who I'm once again going to be a little bit underweight to the field to for today. Cleveland as a team overall, I am getting to the player I actually do have the most of is Mobley, but I'm still underweight to the field to him. I'm not overweight to anybody from the Cleveland Cavaliers looking through my lineups, Eric.
Yeah, it's going to be a team that is drastically different to me this time around, mainly because you just saw it. It's like the purpose of me doing what I did last week. It's hard to understand exactly how everything's going to fall into place, but I was pretty convinced that Cleveland had a chance of having higher upside. I do think there's one guy that we'll get to a little bit later on the Cleveland side that I am very, very interested in, that I think our minutes might be low on purely because of foul trouble. Like, what do you think about Darius Garland? Because I think Darius Garland was in extreme beyond extreme foul trouble. And I think his minutes could have mirrored Mobley a little bit more. Now, you're not getting a discount, 6,700. You're still in that same tier as Jamal Murray's now more expensive at 7,300, whereas like they were sitting around the identical spots. And it was basically like, all right, I'm not going to play Garland there. But like, there's a part of me that thinks Garland is going to be drastically underowned purely because of foul trouble. And it didn't show up in the box score, whereas it did for Mobley. So like, now I'm just kind of reverse engineering everything from last Friday and looking at it this week. I think Darius Garland's one of my favorite tournament plays on the slate.
Yeah. To me, the biggest, so I think there was twofold. Like, for sure, fouls were an issue. He also, to me, was the one guy from the team that was coming back from injury that still didn't look healthy. He was also, he rolled his ankle at one point during the game, which clearly didn't help. But he's still dealing with that toe issue. Evan Mobley looked fine with the ankle. DeAndre Hunter looked fine with the wrist, just like in terms of how they actually physically appear. Like, I know that DeAndre Hunter didn't have the best fantasy game last time out as well as some of the other guys did. But Garland, I still think, at least last game, was less than 100%. But who knows? It's 2 days later. He could be feeling better today. We're not going to know until the game actually plays. So with that in mind, if he's healthier today, then I think we could see the minutes go up. And then to your point also, there was also the situation with the fouls where he had, I believe he had 3 personal fouls in the first quarter.
Yes.
They kind of let him play through it.
4 before halftime.
Yeah, 3 personal fouls in the first quarter, had 4 before halftime, also lost minutes at the end of the game because it wasn't all that competitive. And if somebody isn't 100%, like, why are you pushing them to play minutes at the end of the game? But yeah, we have him in for 30 minutes today. What do you think is the most likely outcome for his playing time?
I mean, we have him projected 30. I have him for 32 at the moment. I just kind of do a loose thing based off of what we've got there and kind of put my own tweaks on it. Just going through popcorn machine today. I just don't see a lot of ways where we know what that minute ceiling can be. And it's the identical talking point to Evan Mobley. Everybody just saw it with Evan Mobley. You knew he could play in more minutes now this time around. You play that slate knowing that he could play 36, 38 minutes last Friday. He's not 7.5% owned. I feel the same way about Garland today. And plus, it's easier to capture upside by guys walking into more minutes in the playoffs, where it's just like some guy off the bench who you project for 13 minutes who can play 24. Or yesterday, I guess, was the reverse of that with Dante DiVincenzo, where there's no way you were going to project it for 16 minutes. It just ended up being a stone cold disaster. Mike Conley played well, it sounds like. I didn't get to see a second of my game, which was heartbreaking to me. But Mike Conley plays 28 minutes. You're not going to project that. I just think when you look at a guy like Garland, 1, he's a good fantasy producer. 2, he's historically been over a 7K player. 3, going up against the Pacers, while there are good defenders, he's probably getting the best matchup of anybody else on the floor, on the offensive side of the floor. Like, you avoid most of Nembhard, you avoid most of Nesmith, considering their matchups that they have. Like, I'm not saying it's perfect. It's basketball. It's modern basketball 2025 where everybody can guard everybody to some extent. But like, I definitely see Garland as somebody who can just flat out go from 30 to 38 minutes just because we don't know. Like, we don't actually know. I think the most likely result is right around that 30-minute mark, 32 minutes, especially if it's the toe. And people are talking about how labored he looked. But I see the fouls, man. And I don't think we have a great idea of what the minute ceiling is for him. And it's obviously the minute ceiling for every player in regulation is 48 minutes. So guys who are projected closer to the 48-minute mark, as opposed to guys like Garland who are at 30 right now, I'm going to like them a little bit more on most of these slates.
All right, let's see if we got any questions. And if you guys do have any questions for us, hit me up. You can either leave a super chat, or if you are a Stokastic sub, tag me in the Discord channel. On the lookout for any questions that we got there. So checking to see if anything is in there, which nothing at the moment. We are clear from there. But what are you doing on the high end? Because we've talked about, some of the, I know, like for me, Mitchell at $9,500. I know he's been great, but still you've got the other guys around him healthy. He's been priced up. Like, I don't want to be prioritizing Donovan Mitchell. Don't really want to be prioritizing Evan Mobley. Like I said, we've got Jokic and SGA on the high end. SGA started this year, $9,500. So he's come up to a more reasonable price point. Who's your overall favorite pay-up option today?
Jokic by a lot. The guy just missed every three-pointer last time around. Didn't really matter. He does everything in the box score, assists, rebounds. I know SG's rebounds have been up. His assists have been up here too. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff that Jokic does on the floor, and SGA is starting to do some of that. But I mean, when you see 13.5 for a rebound prop, when you're looking around and see 28.5, 29.5, when you see 44 minutes last time out, yes, it was overtime, but 39, 40 in regulation sounds pretty fun to me. He had 8 turnovers. He went 0 for 10 from 3. Both of those are just extreme results. And he still put up 54.5, and he's still at a center position where there's a huge drop off. I mean, you have Mobley and Holmgren who you can play at the center spot. Allen and Turner, who are going to be eternally popular because they're in that mid-range where they just kind of fit in nicely, and we know what those minutes are going to be for them. And Hartenstein has been really, really good for the series, but not necessarily dynamic for DFS. I just think Jokic, with the raw points, it's just really hard to give up at the center position, Greg.
Yeah, I am also getting to Jokic the most as my favorite pay-up option. It definitely helps as well that SGA has come up in price, so there isn't quite the same price gap between the two of them, where before it was like, yeah, Jokic projects for the most fantasy points, but do you want to spend $2,000 plus more dollars for him than any other pay-up option? That's not really the scenario today. He's $1,000 more than SGA, but also projects for almost 10 more fantasy points in our projections. So Nikola Jokic, definitely a guy that I'm prioritizing on the high end. Actually, as of right now, Eric, he's my most rostered player overall in the entire slate.
Yep, he's second for me right now.
Interesting. So who's number one for you then?
Oh, we'll get there.
Do you want me to play the Nuke of the Night animation? Because I just, what are we sitting on here?
You don't want to know. I don't know if I want to talk about it. I have 82% TJ McConnell.
Ooh, okay. So let me know why. Why so much of TJ McConnell? Is it just a price point thing? Do you think he's going to start to see some bigger minutes, or is it something else? What is the impetus for the extra exposure to TJ McConnell?
TJ McConnell ended up playing 21 minutes last game. It was a blowout. Obviously, that can go against you here, but what he does is he gives you a guy sub 4K that allows me to get to Jokic. I've been pretty vehemently against playing Obi Toppin throughout these playoffs. I just don't know what the minutes upside can be. I think there's actual minutes upside that can exist for a guy like TJ McConnell. And Benedict Mathurin's played really well. I was very high on Benedict Mathurin coming into this series. I feel like there's just no way that Benedict Mathurin isn't going to be a big part of people's lineups. He's currently higher owned than TJ McConnell. I wouldn't be shocked to see Benedict Mathurin 45% and TJ McConnell around 35%, which is like where we've got McConnell currently at. There might even be a world where TJ McConnell gets squeezed because Benedict Mathurin is 4,100 shooting guard, small forward, and we have Michael Porter Jr. pulling more ownership right now. I don't know. It's still, I mean, Michael Porter Jr. played awesome last time out. So yeah, there's maybe something there, but I definitely think you're going to see Mathurin pull more ownership than McConnell. And the push and pull of it here, people are going to play Porter if they're going to play that. I think just playing a guy who has one position, just point guard. And then I'm going to be playing the Garland piece. I'm going to be a little bit overweight to that. I think SGA definitely a part that I want to have in my lineups as well. 3,800 does a lot for me, and I don't feel comfortable with anything else sub 4K whatsoever. I'm going to mix in a little bit of Peyton Watson yet again, just because, that ended up being a piece that works out some of the time. I mean, he got 17 minutes, put up 18 fantasy points as the Nuke of the Night last time around. I feel all right about it. The purpose of me playing him at that price point remains identical. It's not like I expected him to put up 25 or 30. Would have been nice, but I think TJ McConnell, just with the fantasy point rate, with the opportunity for extra minutes to walk into, maybe Cleveland does just whacks him again and he runs into some more minutes, whereas everybody else on Indy would suffer. I feel really, really good about jamming that piece today.
I've got McConnell about half my lineups. I would be really surprised if he's not all that popular, though. It would just be so anti what we've seen this entire playoffs, where anytime somebody has a big game, they're more popular next time out. So that in itself, he just did 29.5 fantasy points. That was the best game TJ McConnell's had in the playoffs. It's the best game he's had in over a month. And he's a really good fantasy producer. I think if you're looking at guys who are sub 4K, I think him and Benedict Mathurin are the two top guys. I would be surprised if he's like low owned though, just because he was so good last game.
Yeah, I kept him. I when I was giving the comparison, I just thought people would probably go more towards the Mathurin piece. And I think when you run the sims and when you're running lineups, if you're doing what I'm doing and you're boosting a little bit of Garland, there's ways that TJ McConnell gets pushed down a little bit. Now, I'm not saying that he won't be popular because I think 35% is still pretty damn popular, but I just feel more comfortable playing a lot of him. I think there's a world where, because of the positionality of Benedict Mathurin, and he's done the same thing, he's played completely phenomenal for 3 games relative to his salary and been optimal most of them, if not every single one. I thought there was a world where he gets pushed up, and it was just like Benedict Mathurin, I'm not going to really go crazy with. I've got 40% of him right now. I'm not sure where that's going to finish up as I run one more sim, but TJ McConnell, there's just no way that I'm not going to play a ton of him today. So yeah, if he ends up getting pushed up as far as ownership goes, fine. But like SGA is going to still pull ownership. Donovan Mitchell, Nuclear is still going to pull ownership. Quarter of lineups right now. Halliburton, I am curious if Halliburton comes in lower than 17% coming off of like whatever we just witnessed from him last game. Probably not, but 8,800 and we've seen a couple of times where these guys end up coming in way lower owned than projected. It's so hard to get a gauge on what the public's going to do of players coming off of really bad games. But his price at 8,800 just makes it so hard for me to still like make any kind of a case for him, though. It's going to be a lot of Garland getting to like 30% of him or so, double the field there, and then just making that massive stand on TJ McConnell where, there's still Russell Westbrook. People click on that. Jamal Murray's still there, although shooting guard eligibility helps. McConnell's going to show up a lot for me.
Yeah, I get to a good amount of TJ McConnell as well. Not quite as much as you, but I'm overweight to the field to him. He's in about half my lineups. I do think that Tyrese Halliburton is going to be pretty contrarian today. Same way that whoever played well the last game, that's who people play the next game. But then same thing. Tyrese Halliburton has a bad game last time out. He ends up losing some minutes to TJ McConnell, and now people are like, hey, we don't want to play Tyrese Halliburton. Same thing last game, where Michael Porter Jr. projected as an outrageously good value option. He pulled some ownership. It was not nearly as much as what he was initially expected to get. And it was only because, well, he didn't play well recently. So therefore, I can't play him. What happens? He has a really good game. And now where's Michael Porter Jr.'s ownership? It is at like 40% for today.
Correct.
It is.
Muy high.
Yeah, 41.5%. What's the difference between this game and last game? He played well last game. That's it. The price point's the same otherwise. Like there aren't too many different. It's just he played a good game last time out, and people are like, oh, Michael Porter Jr. is good again. He's gonna have a bad game, and people are like, we can't play Michael Porter Jr. He's terrible. He's hurt. It's just I don't know why this is. Maybe it's because there's less games and people are more aware of what the individual results are. Like obviously, people points chase or fade guys because they've been playing well or poorly in the regular season. It just seems like it's getting magnified more at this time of year. I know I talk about it on every single show, but it's so important to these games.
Yeah, you should talk about it every show. That's like your due diligence, is reminding people that we are getting more public money than we've had for months in the NBA DFS streets. It's also very comfortable to click on things that just went well. It's very uncomfortable to click on things that did not go well. It's human nature. And so you're basically just playing against people's intuition and human nature. That being said, we also play a salary game where you're trying to make the pieces fit. And like sometimes a play can be chalky, but not chalky enough. It can even be negative leverage, but it's still a really good piece because of the positionality it fits. And then you can get contrarian with the rest of your lineup. That's why the sims are so important, is that it takes everything into account. The ownership, it takes into account the player projection, and it takes into account what else is within that lineup, where you have, some people talk about it as gross ownership or whatever you want to talk about. But I'm very much here for not being points chasey when it applies.
Yeah, I actually think it would be funny to just play a strategy throughout the postseason where I'm going to fade whoever played well last game, and I'm just going to play whoever played poorly. I would bet that's probably been a profitable strategy just to blindly do that over the course of this postseason. Like same last slate, like we were talking about Russell Westbrook, really, really popular. And what happens? Michael Porter Jr. plays well, and just more of the minutes go to him. So this could be a spot
too. It's the push and pull effect. One player is going to affect another. And if you can get that part of the equation correct, you're just bypassing so many people. Like that's the most important part, is to like, hey, I think Michael Porter Jr. could end up closing over Russell Westbrook, which is not even just something that people should understand and logically think of, but you would want to build your lineups with that thought in mind. Like that's a great thing to always point out, Greg. So you're not doing anything wrong with that. You know that.
One thing that's funny, that just kind of the same thing. Russell Westbrook, who was one of the more popular players last slate, Michael Porter Jr. plays well. So what happens now on this slate, we get the 40% owned Michael Porter Jr. and Russell Westbrook. He is now at 26% ownership, just because of how the dynamic went last game, where I know the narrative before this was Michael Porter Jr. can't play. Russell Westbrook has to play over him. And we get one game where Michael Porter Jr. plays over Russell Westbrook, and now it's nobody wants to play Russell Westbrook anymore. It's not nobody, but it's less than what it was before. So something kind of interesting to keep in mind about what might happen with Denver's rotations. They could go back to what it was that they were doing before. We do have a super chat here. This one is coming to us from Orion. Orion says, for FanDuel GPP, he's playing one lineup. He wants to know, should he play Strus and Chet or Caruso and Jalen Williams? I prefer the Caruso and Jalen Williams side, but how about yourself, Eric?
Yeah, Caruso, Jalen Williams. I mean, the Caruso, definitely that side of it.
All right, let's get back to looking at the slate here. And I want to know, are there any players that you're looking at who you don't like rostering either because you think they're too popular or anything along those lines? Is there somebody who you may be trying to get away from today?
Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of zeros of guys on last slate. I had 0 Tyrese Halliburton. I probably don't play 0 this time around because I do think I want to artificially get to like even 5% would be okay by me, just purely because I do think there's a world he ends up lower owned coming off of being completely terrible. For fairness, though, I mean, he's 1,400 less than SGA, and SGA is projected for 13.5 fantasy points more than he is. You've got all these cheapies, whether it's, Darius Garland for contrarian purposes that I'm going to, TJ McConnell I'm going to for salary relief purposes. Everybody's getting to, like, there's a lot of those type of guys. I think the most uncomfortable one for me right now definitely is Aaron Gordon. I am way underweight to Aaron Gordon, and he's played well. He's played really, really well in this series. But boy, has he shot the ball well from 3, and 4 for 6 from 3, 2 for 3 from 3, 3 for 6 from 3. And he's had 2 43 burgers where he's adding the rebounds that he can always do that. He had 5 assists last game. He played 46 minutes. He stayed out of foul trouble every single game of this series. And like, there were a lot of games in the Clippers series, and maybe that's just a product of guarding a Kawhi. And now on the other side for OKC, Jalen Williams is obviously potent, but Chet Holmgren's obviously potent, but there's no, like, I mean, Kawhi is the guy that everything's flowing through. For OKC, it's going through SGA most of the time still. I don't know what to make of it, but like Aaron Gordon at 6,100, I am 10% right now. He is 30+%, could end up more popular. That's my most uncomfortable fade at the moment by far.
Let's see. So I'm doing some alterations to my lineups, and let's see. What do I have for guys who I'm underweight to as of right now? So here's the one that's most uncomfortable for me, who I'm pretty significantly underweight to the field to, Eric. It's Donovan Mitchell. For me, I have to be prioritizing SGA and Jokic over Mitchell. They were both so much better than him as fantasy producers over the course of the season. But Mitchell also has taken on a different role in this playoffs for numerous reasons. One of them has just been injuries to other players. Another part of it too has just been that, hey, it's the playoffs. These are more important games. He's taking on higher usage. So he's been playing out of his mind the last couple of games. I only have him in 8% of lineups right now. In turn, though, I am doing something pretty similar to what you're doing as I'm looking at my lineups as I update and go through everything as we get closer to lock. I'm coming in well overweight to the field on Darius Garland, and in turn well underweight to the field on Donovan Mitchell. It's uncomfortable for numerous reasons. Mitchell's obviously been absurdly good. Garland has either been hurt or just like last game foul trouble. Kind of makes it hard to know exactly how healthy he's going to be. But looking at his pricing in the regular season, do you remember he was priced at the end of the regular season when he was last healthy?
Okay, he was in the 8K range.
8,500.
Yeah.
And now he is $6,700 on DraftKings. On FanDuel, Darius Garland is also the same price point, $6,700, and sub 20% owned on both sites is Darius Garland right now. And, I get it. There's the concerns about his health. We don't know. We have no way of knowing if he avoided foul trouble last game, how many minutes he would have played or how good he would have looked. I just can't imagine he's going to be cheaper than $6,700 going forward. And I assume this as well. I think that there's going to be, assuming he plays like fine the next couple of games, then I think Darius Garland's going to be like $8,000 and it'll be more popular than he is right now. I want to be ahead of Darius Garland. You brought this up at the top of the show, but I think that's one of the easier leverage spots to go to is be underweight to the field of Donovan Mitchell, overweight to the field on Garland. If Garland plays his normal role, that comes right out of Donovan Mitchell's usage.
Love. I mean, he's my favorite bet on the board. 23.5 PRA is just unbelievably low. Even if you project him for 30 minutes, when would we ever see 23.5 PRA during the regular season in a fast-paced matchup? Ever? Like, when will we ever see that for Darius Garland? I mean, they're just like so many red flags, and I've just been tracking it, watching it all day long. I think single game parlaying a bunch of his pieces together in hopes that he can play 30. Like, once again, you don't get the opportunity to run into more minutes with many guys on slates because they're already projected for so many, or the closing lineups are more predictable. Like, there's the Russell Westbrook, Michael Porter Jr. thing we've talked about, but like Darius Garland's closing basketball games, barring foul trouble or him dying on a basketball floor. So like Darius Garland, 23.5 PRA is awesome bet. And then for DFS purposes, I just don't see any planet where I don't get overweight to him. I think he was just like a glaring standout thing. he is today's Evan Mobley. And so I'm just hoping that he can walk into 36, 38 minutes and emphasize walking, because obviously that can be a difficult thing if you've got a bad toe, and that can make you look silly. But I'd rather look silly with like overweight to a sub 15% guy who can win me 100K rather than like, worry about, oh God, I'm playing all these 50% owned pieces. How do I get different? Like, it's very easy to get different with Garland.
Yeah, and I see somebody in chat here, Legend, saying Garland hasn't had a big game against the Pacers. Keep in mind, he's only played in one game in this series. And the one game he played in, he picked up 4 fouls in the first half. It was his first game back from injury. So like, in general, I wouldn't put too much stock into what an individual player has done against a team, but I would definitely not do it considering the circumstances where it gets in foul trouble, plays 25 minutes last game. It's hard to put too much stock into that one game unless you just looked at it. If you are like totally convinced that you just look at that game, just be like, he's not healthy, which is not an unreasonable take. Like, he definitely didn't look 100%. If you just watch that game and just be like, I don't think he's going to be healthy today, then I think that would be a reasonable reason to, be hesitant. But if you're just going to say he hasn't had a big game in the series against Indiana, like, I wouldn't put too much stock into that as of right now.
Nor should you.
All right. Let's see. Was there any questions that we got in Discord? Nothing as of now. Want to remind people once again that it is Mother's Day. And if you are not getting your mom a 75% off subscription to Portfolio EV with the promo code you're just a bad child. You're a bad son, bad daughter. Shame on you. Flowers 75% off Portfolio EV with the promo code Flowers75. There's a link down below in the YouTube description box. Get yourself 75% off your first payment on a Portfolio EV sub with that promo code. And it's going to be expiring today. Only day you can take advantage of it, because Mother's Day, it only happens once a year, Eric. So take advantage of it now before it goes away. Your mom's going to be very disappointed in you. So
that's such a hot AI mom. That's such a hot AI mom. Do you want to
disappoint your mom on her day? I don't think so.
No,
I don't think so.
Happy birthday, Mama Lindquist. Love you.
It's her mom too. I mean, it's her birthday too.
It's not my mom's birthday. No.
Oh, all right. Well, happy birthday to her, and happy birthday to all. That's actually what people misunderstand about Mother's Day. This is actually all moms' birthdays. Not enough people bring that up. That's why this holiday was created. Not to sell presents, not to sell Hallmark cards, because it's all of their birthdays today.
Richie and I are thinking the same thing. That AI chick is so hot. That's all. Just wanted to let it be known. She is fine. That is a fine mom right there. Sign me up for that. If that's Melanie in 30 years, I mean, let's go. Like, let's go. We will still be. I mean, she's holding the vase right now. It could be something.
Yeah, watching soccer in the background. Also got, looks like lottery tickets or something on the bottom left side.
Hell yeah. Also, that is language that looks like Star Wars gibberish, doesn't it?
It is one thing that's really really funny about making some graphics with AI, which is fun. You and I have talked about it. I do enjoy it and think it's fun to do. But there are things where it's like, hey, build me, a graphic. You give it some things, be like, hey, it's the Wolves playing. And then the jersey, it's like really odd logos that are like not quite right. And like Wolves could be spelled wrong for some reason.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't know what's on those lottery tickets there. But yeah, it does look like some hieroglyphics or something.
I don't know, but that's a lovely blue shirt she is wearing.
That's know what it's time for, Eric?
No.
There you guys have it. It is time for the nuke of the night. And Eric, I do feel like to a large extent, we revealed some of our hand in terms of who we're getting under and overweight to the field to. But who is it that you're identifying for your nuke of the night, your favorite overall GPP play for the slate?
Yeah, I mean, we've gone at length about both Garland and McConnell. I feel like I'd be disingenuous to not pick one of the two of them. I think it would be kind of a cop out to say both of them because, then I'm trying to take a 2-for-1 special. But boy, oh boy, is my success drawn to both of them here today. I'm going to just go with Darius Garland. It's truly just a situation where he is projected for 30 minutes, and I get it. That's probably the most likely outcome, but there are so many outcomes that we don't know with Darius Garland. There's a chance that he is hard capped at like a 30-32. There's a chance that they want to just keep Ty Jerome mixing in, and Ty Jerome can't play worse than he's played the last 2 games. Or maybe he can, and he's turned back into a pumpkin at midnight. But I definitely think Darius Garland sitting there, sub 7K, as you said before, 8,500 on previous slates. I just tapped him up to 40%. He is currently sub 15%. That is definitely worthy of being Nuke of the night.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Garland as well. I've got my lineups just uploaded. I've been 44% a lineup, so at 13% projected ownership, it's kind of hard for him to not be the guy for me. By the way, you also mentioned that he might only play 30 minutes. Well, guess what he averaged in the regular season? 30 minutes per game. In 30 minutes per game in the regular season, he averaged 37 fantasy points. So if you're just and also a pace matchup playing against the Pacers, his props are crazy low. And just because of some of the risks involved, I don't know that I love his just standard prop line, Eric. But let's look at some of his alt lines. Like, that's where I think things get really interesting, because you could get a guy in Darius Garland who in the regular season played 30 minutes per game and averaged 20.5 points in those 30 minutes. And now he's also in a beneficial matchup for himself. Let's see. What is he for 20 plus points?
I bet his 23.5 PRA. I got the entire portfolio. And then, I love the idea of getting some of these alt numbers. I saw 17.5 points on Fliff was actually standing out. It's kind of a middle between the 15 and 20. It's like the only spot there. And that was like plus 140. I can't imagine he'd be less than plus 220 or something, plus 250 for 20 plus, which would be incredible.
Plus 250 for 20 points, which is exactly what he averaged in the regular season in only 30 minutes. And if he is healthy, like, why couldn't he play 34 minutes? That's not even a crazy amount for like an all-star level starter in a playoff game. So he is plus 250 for 20 points. And for 25 plus points, he's plus 680. If you want to take a chance on 30 plus points, he is 17-1. And those were the FanDuel odds. So I would have to look at all of the different ones for, the different books to really odd shop there. But usually for the all lines, FanDuel has the best lines. So we're on the same page there. I like Darius Garland for GPP purposes. I can't imagine this price point is going to stay down too low for all that much longer. Let's go through all the individual positions now and talk about some of the players that we're prioritizing at each individual spot. We got 17 minutes to go until lock here. If you guys haven't done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Starting at the point guard spot, you and I have both mentioned that we like Darius Garland a good amount. Who are the other point guards that you're prioritizing? I know TJ McConnell's another one for you, but anybody else in the mix? It's only a 2-game slate, so you end up with a handful of players with a pretty high amount of ownership.
Yeah, TJ McConnell is by far my highest owned point guard. He's my highest owned player, only 77% now. So he's underneath the 80% threshold. But once again, if you build in the Sims this morning, this afternoon, now, whenever you built and you got a lot of TJ McConnell, and I think it made a ton of sense. He was already somebody that, obviously I wanted to play. I thought he made more sense than anything else. I am going to get to quite a bit of Benedict Mathurin as well in this last run. So take that for what you will. I know that's looking ahead a little bit, but I've got the most of TJ McConnell. Then it's Darius Garland. Then it's SGA. Then next point guard is Russell Westbrook at 20%. So yeah, everybody between 20 and 77% amongst those guys.
Yeah, so the 3 point guards that I am prioritizing are Garland, McConnell, and Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray also kind of popular here relative to their ownerships. I do prefer Darius Garland, but Jamal Murray, another one also. And partially this also is because he's the shooting guard eligibility in addition to point guard. If he was only point guard, then I'd probably only have him like 15 to 20% aligned. So with the point guard and shooting guard eligibility, Jamal Murray is somebody who is landing in a good amount of lineups for me. And that is also why he's one of my more rostered shooting guards. But who are the other players with shooting guard eligibility that you're finding getting into lineups for you?
Benedict Mathurin the most, Jamal Murray next, Christian Brown, Alex Caruso, Andrew Nembhard, all between 15 and 25%, kind of spread amongst it. I'm with you, Donovan Mitchell, sub 10%. So that's going to be an uncomfortable fade if he ends up around 25, 26% where we haven't projected. That's the group.
For myself, it is, Murray, Brown, and Benedict Mathurin. Brown has like a pretty decent minutes floor there. Caruso a little bit to a lesser extent. His price points come up a little bit from earlier in the series now at this point. I do wonder, I'm not really getting to him a ton. I do wonder if Lou Dort is maybe getting slept on a little bit here. He's only $4,400. He now has sub 20% projected ownership. But he is somebody who I don't have that I'm kind of considering boosting, but I'm just leaving it as is for now. Small forward. Who you got at the small forward spot?
Yeah, Benedict Mathurin goes without saying, I think, at this point, considering, he's just eternally cheap in this series and continues to carve out spots, and he gets blowout run, it would appear. Michael Porter Jr. Also just, there's nothing I can do to get away from playing Michael Porter Jr. on this slate at the moment. That'll feel really, really dumb. Obviously, Russell Westbrook, the push and pull there, but I listed off all the other point guards, and I think that I'm just comfortable being underweight there, playing Michael Porter Jr. Christian Brown, have a little bit of Peyton Watson at 15%, Jalen Williams 15%, sitting right there, but it is by far Benedict Mathurin and Michael Porter Jr.
Same, Benedict Mathurin, Michael Porter Jr., Christian Brown to a lesser extent. We should talk a little bit more about MPJ just because he is so popular. And he's somebody I've played a pretty good amount of throughout the playoffs. Some of the slates where he's been low owned, I've been playing him. Some of the slates like this one where he's been more popular, I'm playing him. I mean, I get that he's dealing with this terrible shoulder injury. It's definitely hurting his ability to pull down rebounds. But when he's making his shots, which it doesn't seem to be impacting his shot too much, like he's just been kind of a streaky shooter at times. But just considering that he's starting, he has a track record of being a good player. He's $4,500. Benedict Mathurin's $4,100. Hunter's $4,300. Dort is $4,400. Max Strus is $5,100. Imagine during the regular season, you had a slate where everybody was healthy for Cleveland, and Max Strus was $600 more than Michael Porter Jr. He's a chalk piece I'm having a hard time getting away from. I'm just riding with the chalk and Michael Porter Jr.
Yep, it just is what it is. I can't make a case to not have him be the guy that you want to get to the most, along with Mathurin at shooting at small forward. I mean, he has the power forward eligibility, fits in 4 lineup spots. It's just really hard to avoid with what he's capable of doing on any slate. And then if he ends up being a failure, he's going to be a failure in a lot of people's lineups. There's still like you need to be kind of perfect coming into these two gamers, but I think there's a little leniency as far as what Michael Porter Jr.'s outcome can be, and we'll be okay.
Yeah, so Michael Porter Jr., I am going, especially because there aren't that many cheap guys I feel all that great about. And then also some of the games where Michael Porter Jr. got benched down the stretch. So like game 2 against OKC, he plays 25 minutes. Game 1 against OKC, he plays 24 minutes. What are we expecting out of playing time for somebody like Benedict Mathurin or DeAndre Hunter? Is it really that much different than what Michael Porter Jr. is playing anyway, the 25 and 24 minutes, plus track record of being a better fantasy producer than those guys? So Michael Porter Jr., just summarizing, chalk option I'm going to be getting myself to. How about power forward? I'm pretty spread out power forward personally.
Yeah, this is the position I think. I mean, we've covered a lot of spots where I'm very concentrated towards the top of some of these pieces. I have 40% Evan Mobley. I have 35% Chet Holmgren. I have 35% Jalen Williams. I have 25% Pascal Siakam. I have 15% DeAndre Hunter. I mean, I'm rounding like a little bit here and a little bit there, but I mean, this is just such a spread out position for me. I mean, Peyton Watson was the guy I made the aggressive stand on last game. I got the outcome I was looking for, but I think the big difference between that slate and this slate is just what we're getting for the Evan Mobley ownership and where I was at there. I mean, again, Evan Mobley, I ended up overweight too, and I have no idea how here in the final run, but I think it just kind of speaks to everything else. And I'll be able to kind of move that around in the evening window. I'd be surprised if I ended up like overweight to Evan Mobley, the way, like, again, 40% is currently there, but we'll be able to have ownership from the first game, and it's going to dictate probably what I do at power forward, because I want to know the Chet Holmgren, Jalen Williams exact ownership kind of levels, and I think that's going to indicate where Evan Mobley lands.
So for me at power forward, once again, pretty spread out here. And there aren't that many guys I love at power forward in general. And just looking at my exposures, I assume it looks like I don't have a lot of these guys in the forward spot. It's more so like the small forward guys that I get to in the forward spot for utility. I've got the most of Chet. Following that up, it's Pascal Siakam. Then I've got Aaron Gordon, who I'm in line with the field with. I'm in line with the field on Obi Toppin. I've got 20% of Mobley, so that's a decent amount underweight to the field to him. I got 20% of Jalen Williams. That has me a decent amount underweight to the field to him as well. So I guess I'm saying my priorities here are Chet Holmgren and Pascal Siakam, but it's pretty spread out. I don't have any guys who I like, oh, I love that guy at power forward or anything like that. Now, finally, at center, what are you looking at the center position?
I mean, it's just freaking all Jokic all day. I ended up with him as my highest owned player now. Miles Turner, number 2 there. Then it's Holmgren, Mobley, power forward position there. Allen sitting there at 20%. I'm just undercutting Obi Toppin every slate. Isaiah Hartenstein, I think, is going to be a little bit overowned this slate, although we haven't talked about Isaiah Hartenstein. Mm-hmm. What an interesting spot at 6K in the early game. We know Turner, Allen, they've had their thing going in that little afternoon session or in that evening window. But with these games flip-flopped relative to what the last slate was, where we're getting this game locking first, we're getting the Eastern Conference game locking second. I think Isaiah Hartenstein, I mean, he played 31 minutes overtime, didn't even necessarily walk into more. Is he just hard capped at 30, 32 minutes? Is there a 36, 38 upside ever for him? Because it doesn't feel like it in this series, and I don't know why.
So big part of it has been foul trouble. He gets into foul trouble fairly regularly. He's had 4, let's see. So actually, if you go back to his last handful of games, 4 personal fouls, 4 personal fouls, 5 personal fouls, 4 personal fouls, 4 personal fouls. They opened up the overtime trying to go small with Caruso on the court. It didn't work. They pivoted back to Hartenstein. It was kind of a little bit too late at that point, though, because by the time they tried to bring him back in, Denver had already accumulated a pretty decent lead. So if you look at what's happened with Hartenstein so far in the series, game 1, he ends up playing 29 minutes, and game 2, he plays 22 minutes, but that game's a massive blowout where he doesn't step on the court almost at all in the second half. He picked up 4 personal fouls, get benched due to foul trouble, and then because the game was a blowout, he never had to check back in. And then last game, it was the 30 and a half minutes. I think we're most likely going to get somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 minutes from him. But just considering over the course of the season, he averaged 27 and a half minutes, and that led to him averaging 33 and a half fantasy points in the regular season. So now if we're going to be getting 30-ish minutes from him, then if you just put him in for 30 minutes, then based on his regular season rates, you're probably getting him for 36, 37 fantasy points, something like that. So I like Hartenstein. I've been overweight to him in pretty much every game in the series, and this one's the same. There's other centers I have more of. I have more of Chet Holmgren. I have more of Jokic. But Hartenstein, a modest ownership. I'm overweight to him.
Okay, I just boosted him because I was underweight, and I was just trying to figure out what's been going on here because I just expected him to play more with Jokic on the other side of the series. And the whole reason you go out and get a Hartenstein is defensively to deal with Jokic and to rebound the basketball, which was the glaring weakness for Oklahoma City last season in their run. And the reason that things collapsed on them was the inability to do that. So, yeah, just wanted to talk through it because I'm a little surprised at Hartenstein's minutes, but the foul trouble is definitely a great shout out by you.
Yeah, he has. And it was not an issue for him last game. They just tried some other different lineup combinations, but in pretty much every other recent playoff game, there's been some sort of issues with either foul trouble or just games being blowouts, which, I mean, also that is kind of something maybe I should be accounting for a little bit more. It is kind of hard to guard Nikola Jokic and completely avoid fouls, especially when you got a guy in Hartenstein who's a little bit of a foul-prone player. I do think if he was to completely avoid fouls, then there would be a little bit more leeway for his minutes, but it's probably not the most likely scenario anyway. As far as other questions, I want to check Discord one more time to see if anything came in that we could answer before lock. And nope, not quite yet. So we're all good on that front. Want to ask you guys one more time to like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It really does help us a whole bunch. It only takes a half second of your time, helps us in the YouTube algorithm. So we do appreciate it. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. If you haven't hit that thumbs up button. Eric, any other final thoughts on the slate? Anything that we have not gone over that you want to make sure that we talk about before we hit lock? I do have one other thing that's on my mind if there's nothing for yourself.
Oh, the floor is yours then. I really don't have anything else.
Okay. Miles Turner rolled his ankle pretty bad last game. And he went to the locker room for an extended period of time. And he was hobbling a lot when he came back as well. I don't know how much that's going to carry over for today. I do wonder if I should be taking a couple minutes away from Miles Turner and giving it to Obi Toppin just in case, because due to there were some foul issues involved in this, but more so than anything, it was that ankle issue that had him in the locker room. Turner only was able to play 25 and a half minutes last game, and the main reason was because of that ankle.
Interesting. Thanks for bringing that up 5 minutes before lock, Greg. No, I'm just kidding. Thomas Bryant played 14 and a half minutes, and most of it was before the blowout really took place. I mean, the blowout was pretty much the whole, like after the first half, it got very, very wonky there for him. But Thomas Bryant ended up getting that long rotation once you had him check out first. But Obi Toppin was already in that game. Yeah, Thomas Bryant checked in for Obi Toppin at the end of the first quarter. And then Obi Toppin didn't return till midway through. I mean, the guy you'd probably, I know this is absolutely disturbing. If there's going to be any kind of limitations, I think Obi Toppin's just kind of like solidified in at that role. I don't know if we see like tons of minutes for Obi Toppin at the 5. Like if any, like if he would definitely benefit a minute or two, but like the guy who goes from being a 0 to being a hero would be Thomas Bryant, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's still hard for me to want to get to Thomas Bryant. Toppin did end up playing 19 and a half minutes last game. That was the most he'd played in the entire series. And they also kind of got their asses kicked last game. And I don't know that they would love what they saw out of Thomas Bryant last time out. Let's see some of the plus minuses. Thomas Bryant, not this is the end all be all. Thomas Bryant was a +1. Obi Toppin was a -3. The starters got just murdered last game. So the starting lineup for the Pacers, -29 for Nesmith, -26 for Turner, -32 for Nembhard, -20 for Halliburton. It was kind of the bench that, as much as they lost by 22, but as much as they were in the game, it was kind of the bench that played neutral. I do wonder if they just try to mix in Obi Toppin and maybe bring a little bit more offense and a different look off the bench. But this would be, once again, just if there's any kind of issues with Miles Turner and that ankle. He's not on the injury report, so it's hard to know if it's something that's actually still bothering him. But the ankle injury looked pretty bad when it happened. He wasn't able to stand up. He had to crawl off the court. And I thought he was just done for the series when that happened. He came out and was able to finish the game, but he didn't look great.
Yeah, I think that's a good shout out and something that I would prefer you threw out sooner than 2 minutes before lock. But honestly, I just slid in a tiny bit of Thomas Bryant. I expect Miles Turner to start. I expect Miles Turner to be out there. I think Thomas Bryant at 3K is a little bit like you're already like I said, I'm underweight to Toppin. I still have a little bit of Toppin like that. He's not going anywhere. The guy who's sub 5% and probably going to be less than that, unless you just hear that there is limitations or something. Thomas Bryant is functionally been the backup at the 5 there. Toppin shared the floor with Thomas Bryant. He shared the floor with Miles Turner in his first rotation. He's still the guy at the 4. He hasn't been playing the 5 for them. He definitely can't play the 5 for them in this series with Mobley and Allen. Like that's just a that's a no-go, I think is what the kids would say. That's a no-go. But I think playing a little bit of Thomas Bryant in Showdown especially has its merits when you're getting away from Turner there.
Sure. For Showdown, yeah. For Classic slates, it's still kind of hard for me to get to Thomas Bryant because you still need a lot to kind of go his way. Like he needs to get those minutes, but actually also play decently in them. So if I was playing Showdown lineups, yeah, I would be playing Thomas Bryant. I think for those reasons, he would make some sense. Finally, Eric, right before we head to lock, who wins today? Pick some winners for the 2 games we got.
Oh, let's see. I mean, we got the Cleveland winner. Let's go back to Cleveland. That one feels straightforward. We thought it was going to be competitive. OKC ends up losing. Didn't see that one coming. I think OKC rights the ship to some extent, but I think it's going to be another really competitive game. Jokic is pretty good at basketball, I think is what we're learning. As if 3 MVPs wasn't enough to learn that already. The guy is just so special. And I'll go. It's chalky, but yeah, Cleveland OKC.
All right. So for myself, I'm going to go the same way, Cleveland and OKC. It's funny, OKC is a bigger favorite than Cleveland, but I do feel more confident in Cleveland than
I do too.
OKC. Not saying like I think Cleveland's a better team than OKC. Just I think Denver is much. I think the gap between Denver and Indiana is bigger than the gap between OKC and Cleveland. I think
Agreed.
that's probably the best way to go about explaining it. That, and Denver is Nikola Jokic. At any point in time, Jokic could do it in game one and just have 40 points and 20 rebounds. And then Denver's live to beat the Monstars. Like they could beat anybody in that kind of scenario. So, guys, that brings us to lock. Over on Playback, if you guys do want to watch the games, you could go ahead and do that. We're not going to be doing a post-lock show over there, but the games will be playing in Playback throughout the day here. So I'll drop that link here into the YouTube chat. If you guys want to hang out in there and watch the games, that is available to you. Other than that, guys, have a good day. Enjoy Mother's Day. Get your mom a Portfolio EV subscription with the promo code FLOWERS75 for 75% off. This is going to be the only day to take advantage of that offer. And then it's gone until next Mother's Day, assuming we decide to do this again next Mother's Day, which who knows? I haven't thought that far ahead into the future. But guys, enjoy the rest of your weekend. We'll see you back here tomorrow.